Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Shakti Flow. Take a comfortable seat and we'll get started. Finding your still point in this space. And as I've been mentioning, when we do certain body movements or signals, I'll call them, it gives our body the opportunity to respond the way we want. So when we are sitting still, finding our comfortable seat, when we close our eyes, when we take the nice full breath through the nose, it signals our body to come into stillness. And when we find that stillness, there's space. And when we find the space, there's awareness. What's present at this moment? Try to let the mind, the busy mind, quiet down and move aside. Just letting yourself observe in this really non-judgmental, compassionate way what's present. Letting that presence and that awareness and that information be part of your practice this morning. Now let the hands come to your heart center, holding the heart center, holding intention, holding whatever is present for you at this moment. And letting the class be exactly what you need. Nice inhale and nice exhale. Letting your hands release and fluttering open the eyes. Good morning, Marie. Yay. Okay. All of a sudden I got stuffy. Don't know. Took my medicine. I should be fine. We're going to start lying down on our backs today. I'm sorry. I want you to do tabletop. I'm in the wrong class. I want you to do tabletop this morning. And as we do this movement pattern, I want you to have an awareness to how your body feels. You can use blocks, but I prefer, actually, let's use the blocks. I think that'll be a nice action. And you can use them at the middle or the highest point, whichever. I'm going to try the middle. I want you to take your right foot forward. Some of you are familiar with this flossing I've been doing, and we're just going to address the hips a little bit today. So take your foot forward. So that if this knee is straight up and down to this hip, my foot's way out in front of me. So that as I come forward into this lunge, my knee actually passes over my ankle. And everybody's going to be a little different here. So when you do that, that's your starting point. Push into the foot, drag it backward, and start to move toward the wall behind you with the action of dragging the foot backward. When you get to your end, come forward, release it, and start again. Push, pull, and drag. We're talking to the area around the hip and the back of the leg and the lower back. Now my foot's flat on the floor, but as you continue to go, if you want a little bit more juice, let me move my block, lift the ball of the foot. Keep dragging the heel backwards as you move back. And then when you come forward, you release it. Push, pull, and maybe lift the ball of the foot and drag it backward. And you might notice if you try two different ways, it feels different in your body if you're really paying attention. Thinking about that awareness piece. One more time, just moving back and forth. Good. And then release it. Bring your leg behind you. Before we go to the other side, I want you to just take your hands on your blocks and sit back into an extended child's pose, letting the arms feel strong and long. Head is right between your arms. And then as you inhale, come forward Hold your hands on your blocks and let your pelvis start to rock toward the floor. Now it's not going to go to the floor because you're up on your blocks. Just let it go wherever you want. And then come back to center. Take your other leg forward. We'll do the same thing. So remember to step forward enough so that you've got a good lunge, but your knee bypasses your ankle. And then push into the foot, drag it backward, and start to lean toward the wall behind you. And then come forward. So I like to do 2 or 3 with my foot on the floor, just to see what that feels like. And then I start lifting the ball of the foot up to feel what that feels like. And there's no right or wrong here. You can do either. When I lift the ball of the foot up, I can feel this move into my back body, which is probably really important for me today after the work I had done yesterday. And this helps to prepare the movement pattern for your hips, functionality of the hips, which I know we all need and want. And so you can do this floss either with your foot flat or with your foot up, depending on what it feels like in your body. I'm going to do one more. And then sliding your foot back. Finding that extended child's pose again. Let your hands be on top of the blocks. If they're super high, you can drop them down a little. Push down into your hands as if you're trying to squish your block. Activate the muscles in your arms, shoulders, chest, and back. And then from here, push down to lift up and start to let the pelvis drift forward. Remember, it's everybody's choice. Just getting you to warm up a little. Good, and then release it. Okay, get rid of the blocks for a moment. And come into a tabletop position, traditional tabletop, toes turned under. Easy cat and cow here. Inhaling as you move through that arched spine, shoulder blades on your back. Exhaling, pulling the belly button, pushing the spine up towards the sky. Soft action in the arms when you're coming through cow pose. Strong action in the arms when you're coming through cat pose. Let's do one more. Easy action. Now, I want you to come through cow pose with your toes turned under and your tailbone to the sky. You're going to hover your knees just off the mat. Move into slow motion dog pose with your knees bent. So think about your knees being bent quite a bit here. Think about your arms being straight and long, like they were on the blocks. And then see if you can push yourself into plank pose, into that straight line. Good. Take one more breath here. And then do all of that again. Knees close to the floor. Reach back with your hips. Really funky, bent-legged dog pose. Try not to straighten your legs. I know you want to. Think more about your strong arms. And then push through your legs. Come into your plank pose. Good. Knees down. Sit back on your feet. Come off of your arms. Okay. Pick up your light weights. Now, if you feel like, I don't really want to sit on my feet all that long, please take a block, put it between your feet and sit up a little bit. I want you to be off your legs. We're going to use just your torso with your light weights. Exciting, huh? So let your weights sit on top of your legs. Let's do palms down first. And I want you to start with one arm at a time. I want you to open the arm out to the side like you're opening a door and coming it back down. And then other arm, open it out and back down. Let's do that one more time with one arm. So it's like you're opening the arm out to the side, knuckles face behind you. Now if that feels okay, try 2. And in and down. Core body's engaged even though you're sitting. And you might notice that there's a different sensation because you're sitting, right? And I'm going to add a piece here if you're doing this. Open and then pull your elbows in your back pockets. Open and down on your lap. Open. If it starts to feel too hard, just drop your weights and keep going. And open and down. Let's do 2 more like that. Nice and smooth. Squeeze, belly button to the spine, shoulder blades in your back pockets, creating that container. And in, squeeze, open, and down. Awesome. Let your arms hang by your side. Turn your palms forward. Softly bend your elbows. 1 arm at a time. Scoop forward and down. Scoop forward and down. All right. The same thing if we feel like we've got it. 2 arms at the same time. Scoop and down. Now my elbows are bent and my wrists are straight. And my arms are coming back a little bit behind me, just a little tiny bit. So scoop the air and see where your arms want to go. Will they go up any higher? Will they come back any further? Will they come up a little higher? Trying to keep your wrist straight and your elbows slightly bent. We'll do 1 more. Working through the shoulders, up and down. Terrific. Now come up onto your knees. We can lose the block. So I'm just standing on my knees, all right? You can turn your toes under or turn your toes flat. Doesn't matter, but I want you to keep your tailbone anchoring down and your core body engaged. Light weights or no weights. Weights touch at the pinky side of your hand, palms forward. We're going to do a movement called around the world. We're going to go up and over and touch the thumb side of the weights over your head. Down and touch. Up and touch. Down and touch. Now with lighter weights or no weights, this is more range of motion. How does my shoulder function? We just did a whole bunch of different movement patterns in the shoulder. We're not using our whole leg, so it makes the movement feel different, at least it does in my body. 1 more time. If this is in your neck, drop your shoulders down by your back body. Keep your arms a little bit in front of you. Good. Bring your weights to your chest. Take 1 step forward and stand. Just like that. Just like that. All righty. Let's find, you can use your blocks if you like. I want you to find chair. I want you to find chair. Simple chair, nothing hard. Lift your toes. Think about your core body being engaged. Arms down by your side. Pull back, shoulder blades on your back. Press the arms behind you. Hold that for a second. And noticing what you're feeling in your arms. Should be the back of your arms. And then easy curl to the shoulder, easy press back. Easy curl to the shoulder, easy press back. My hands are in neutral position. I'm not turning my palms in and out. Just holding this neutral position. I'm trying to feel my shoulder blades squeezing together. This connection of front body to back body, so I'm not hanging in my lower back. And while I use my arms. Now keep going and lift your right heel. Put all your weight into your left leg, and maybe you're going to float it off the floor. You don't have to. Just see if you can. Put that foot down, lift the other heel, put all your weight into your standing leg, and maybe you float that one up. Whoop. Not as easy on the second side for me. And then put your foot down, hold the leg or weights behind you, and then come all the way to standing, let your arms rest. So, playing palms forward. Traditional Tadasana. Lifting your toes, energizing the legs. Squeeze the block if you're using it. Make a connection to front body and back body. Good. 1 more breath here. Alrighty. Take your weights and put them down. And we're going to play just a little bit. We're going to start to come down towards the floor again. And we'll pick those weights up again. Don't worry. Don't you worry. So come to the top of your mat, hands at your heart. Inhale, raise the arms and open the arms as if you're saying good morning to the world, day. house, whatever. Hands back to the heart, fold forward and down, soften knees. Inhale, come halfway up, lengthening through the spine, exhaling all the way down. Now take your right foot back and you're in a high lunge. Remember, you can always grab your blocks and bring the floor up. Take your left hand to your left thigh, turn, and then take the left hand to the sky. Now, if your shoulder's bothering you, go ahead and keep your hand down, but we just did all that work, so I'm thinking you're gonna be fine. Take a breath here, and then exhale, hands down, step forward, and just switch your legs. Left hand lightly on the floor, right hand on your thigh to turn, right hand to the sky. And we're just standing in the legs, trying to use the light fingers on the floor. Good, release and come down, step back, downward facing dog. Take a moment here. And when you think about downward facing dog, I'd like you to think about the hands really rooting into the earth. Use your fingertips. Press the floor away. Remember those long and strong arms that we did in the very beginning? Pressing down into the blocks, so press down into the floor. And then maybe your legs are straightening one at a time, or maybe they're bent. Good. All right, so come on down onto your knees. And we are going to use the blocks now because I want you to have a little bit of height in this next movement pattern. I'm going to use the second side. I don't think I want you all the way up. It's a little too tippy, especially if you have the foam blocks. So put the weight or the blocks like they would be under your shoulders. Okay, lined up, not wide. Come up into a plank pose from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a step with your left foot and come to the outside of your block. And then just notice if you can do that easily. There's a lift in the belly that has to happen when you pick your foot up and bring it back. Lift the belly, step with your right foot, and come into this wide lunge. And lift the belly and step back. You, ideally, with your weight, with your hands on the blocks, you should be able to step forward fairly easily. When you step on your left foot again, hand on your left thigh, turn, and take the hand to the sky. So we just did this before, but now we're up. Good. Release and come down. And then step back, try not to drag your foot. Take a breath, lift your hips, and step with your right. Take your right hand to the sky. So we're working up to a pattern here that'll come to you slowly. And then lift your belly, lift your hips a little, pick your foot up, and then drop your knee down. Good. Set your blocks off to the side. Turn your toes under and lift yourself up off of your knees and unfold into a forward fold. Allow your arms, shoulders, head to release. Take a breath or two here. All right, come halfway up, lengthening through the spine. Exhale all the way down. And then find your chair sitting back and down. Take your arms forward and up. Sweep yourself to standing. And exhale in Tadasana. This next round, I'd like you to pick up your one heavy weight. You can do two if you like. I'm going to stay with a little bit of a lighter effort. I'm trying really hard not to go into crazy land, promising my body worker that I wouldn't. I'm going to take you to a wide stance, goddess pose, knees bent. Remember, finding that optimal place for you where your knees aren't falling inward. You've got this intention of taking the legs outward. Tailbone is down. We're going to work with one hand at a time. So we're going to start with just the arm straight down in front of us. I want you to bring the weight to your shoulder, and as you push it over, stretch the leg straight. So sit, release it, shoulder, push it up, and straighten the legs. So there's your action. You can stay right here, Or you can start to think about coming to the floor. So down, lower toward the floor. Shoulder, push over head. Down, lower toward the floor. Shoulder, push over head. Down, lower toward the floor. Now we're going to add something here. When we come down, whether you're touching the floor or not, doesn't matter. We're going to come up and we're going to twist. Let's twist. If you've got your weight in your left hand, twist to your right. If you've got your weight in your other hand, twist to your other direction. Come back to center, lower down. Shoulder, twist, in and down. Shoulder, twist, in, and one more time. Shoulder and twist, in and down. Good, release and change hands. So start with the arm down, shoulders are square, and we're gonna sit a little bit in that goddess pose. Bring it to your shoulder, go straight up and straighten the legs. Down, down. Good, and then as you feel ready, if you've already been reaching to the floor, you can do it now. In, push, down, touch. What we're working on here is we're working on that hip mobility. Can you get those hips down? Some people have a lot of freedom here, some people don't, so don't force it. Now add the twist. Push away from the side that you're holding the weight in. So now I have it in my left hand. I'm going to push away to my right. And down. Up. Push. In. And one more time. Shoulder. Push it away. In and down. All right, so walk your feet in a little bit so that you can easily shift your weight. Go back to your first arm. So we're going to add that same action, but we're going to do it with a full body rotation. I want you to pick your back heel up and twist your whole body. So you ready? We're going to put it down on the floor. We're going to bring it to your shoulder, and then you're going to push in, down, shoulder, push. Now start to make it a little bit more dynamic. Up, down, down, up, down. So you're just up and down, having a good time. Last time. And then pause in the middle. Switch your arms. Same thing. See where you go. Don't have to touch the floor. Come up to your chest or shoulder. Push it away, lifting off that back foot. So you want to have a whole body rotation now. And then start to make it more dynamic. How many people need to start going out into the garden? Lots of this going on. One more. All right, pause. Pick up your second weight. So depending on how strong you are, and depending on how hard you want to work, you could take more weight in your hands because we're going to work in bicep work right now. So if I wanted to work harder today, I would take my light weights and my heavy weights together. But because I promised to not work so hard, I'm going to stay with the heavy weights. My hands are by my neutral position by my legs. I'm standing in Tadasana. We're just going to turn the weight, palms forward, come up to the shoulder. Now listen, halfway down. Come up to the shoulder. Halfway down. Shoulder. Halfway down. One more time. Now we're going to reverse it. We're going to go from halfway down to all the way down, and then midway. Down and midway. Down. Upper arms are stationary. Body's nice and strong. Now see if we can do all that together and stop in the middle. So it's up, pause, down, pause. Up, down, pause, down, pause. If this is in your neck, drop your shoulders down your back. Lighten your weights. One more time. Up, pause, down, pause. Good, release it. Now, if you found that to be super easy, next time we go through that cycle, I want you to up your weights. I want you to go back to goddess pose. We're going to change this a little bit. I'm going to turn so you can see. Feet are wide. I'm sitting back and down, and now I'm going to lean forward. I want to keep this deep squat. Weights are coming to the floor if you can reach them. If not, maybe you put a block under your weights, because we're going to do one arm at a time. So if you weren't quite squatty enough, take your block and make it your floor and come up a little higher. Okay? So we're going to pull one arm up and down, and one arm up and down. Now the trick with this is that you keep your body parallel to the floor, and you keep your legs and hips low. So we're working on deep squatting and back work at the same time. And up and down and up. Draw in your pelvic floor and your lower core. Drop your hips a little bit lower. One arm and then 2 seconds. Last 2. One more. Good. Weights are on the floor. Pick up your hips, square your feet, and pause for a minute. I'm going to move the weights off the mat. And then walking your hands forward, keep your feet flat on the floor. Where can you go? It's kind of like a dog pose, forward fold combo. So heels are down, sitting bones are up over the heels, but you're reaching forward. Long, strong arms. Take a breath. All righty. Now plant your hands and walk yourself into a traditional downward facing dog. Feet are on the mat. Maybe you have to turn around a little bit because you twisted yourself on that wide stance. But find your traditional dog. And then finding yourself coming into a forward plank. Let your knees come to the mat, slide your elbows alongside your body, come all the way to the floor. Walk your feet backward. Your hands can be by your shoulder, or if you're a little bit more free, you can bring your hands closer to your ribs so your elbows are pointing to the sky. Shoulders are on your back. We're going to inhale and lift your head, shoulders, and one leg. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift head and shoulders and other leg. And exhale, lower down. So I'm not asking you to press into your hands. They're just sitting there. Elbows are lined up straight, not winging out to the side. So we're just resetting a little bit here. Inhaling halfway up or wherever you're going, one leg at a time. And then pause, slide your hands forward underneath your forehead and let yourself rest for a second. Go back to that pause and that stillness. We talked about that in the very beginning. As your heart rate regulates, you feel the pause in the breath, the space between the breaths. And in that space, in that pause, there's awareness. Okay. So bring your hands underneath you, push yourself up away from the floor. Moving back into that extended child, you can use the blocks. We're going to have them again underneath our hands. So you can use them again in this extended child. It's a nice way to expand the shoulders. pressing down into your hands, trying to draw the shoulders back into your body. Feel and sense the action in your arms, shoulders, back, and chest. Good. And then come to center. So we want to have the same blocks that we had earlier underneath our arms. And I told you that we were going to play in this little drill. A lot of work that's happening now in the yoga and the fitness world is that we use our body in these various planes of motion. We don't stand in a static position anymore. So as we're here, we're going to think about toes turned under, shoulders on our backs, lifting the knees, and going back into that funky dog that we were in before. So if it feels sketchy with the hands on the blocks, lower them down so they're not so high, or you can get rid of them altogether. But we are going to move back and forth. So I want you to be low as you can here. And then you're going to forward push and step left foot forward. As you do that, left hand to the sky. Lower hand, belly, hips lift as you step back and then dip into that funky, deep, squatty dog. Push forward, right, twist. Hand down, lift hips, belly, and step back, funky dog. Push, twist, land, lift hips and belly to step back, funky dog. Push, open, land. So if you're dragging your foot forward and back, it's because you keep forgetting that you have to lift your belly and lift your hips to make that happen. Open and down, lift up and hold. Land your knees on the mat. Come back into that extended child's. Ask yourself if that felt good or not. And then release and come back up. Were you able, I don't have my monitor on today, so I couldn't see really if you were able to transition back and forth without moving your foot with your hand or without stepping and kind of skidding, right? So let's use the block again if you want to sit on it so that we're just sitting in Vajrasana again. We're back to this. And if you're using heavy weight today, let's pick them up now. You don't have to, but again, I'm taking the momentum away from your body. I'm trying to make the shoulders work a little bit more, the biceps work a little bit more. So I'm going to turn the palms forward. My arms are down, and because of my height, my hands are lightly touching the floor. So belly in, curl hands to shoulders, turn palms forward, push overhead. Come back, turn palms back in, and land. So curl, rotate, push. Lower, rotate, release. Try not to move your body. Now I just said we're working in different patterns, right? And this is a pretty linear pattern, but I'm trying to work symmetrically here after that asymmetrical action. And in and down. So how many times can you do this and kind of fatigue your muscle? You know that I taught a class called Power of Muscle, and one of the biggest things that we need to understand is that if we don't really fatigue the muscle, if we don't challenge ourselves, these muscles just get weaker and weaker as we get older. And because I'm going to assume most of us are in menopause, I may or may not be correct on that, but we are definitely over 40. We want to do the most we can so that we have the most optimal life that we can have. I can't tell you how many people I know that are falling apart. They're just falling apart. And you know, muscle isn't the only thing. There's lots of other things, but that's a really big one. How's your arms getting? Are they getting a little tired? Last one. I was trying to keep you busy. Good. Now stay at the bottom and just do the curl. Halfway up, down. Halfway up, down. Our biceps are usually pretty strong because we're used to picking things up all the time. Now pause halfway up. Now go all the way up and halfway down. All the way up and halfway down. Remember I said this was coming back later. If it's in your neck, it's too heavy, or you're letting your elbows move. Now do all the way through. So down, pause, up, pause, down, pause, up, 2 more. So a lot of times what happens is when you're working the bicep, if it doesn't feel strong, and up and pause and rest, let go of your weights. It'll feed up into your shoulders. So your shoulder starts to move around and then it'll feed up into your upper traps and neck. So the shoulder always needs to stay still while you do this action because we're isolating it, right? Come forward and go into either child's pose, ideally downward facing dog, to open up the backs of your legs. Feel free to pedal. Feel free to open up and twist the hips a little if that feels good to you. And then finding center here. So we're going to do one more round of those step throughs. You can use your block or not. I'm going to choose not to. So it's a combo move this time. I'm going to let you take a moment to get your blocks if you need to. Remember that your hands are in front of you, not too wide. So we're going to start with the downward facing dog. Bend the knees and go into that squatty dog. Try to get low to the floor. And you're going to use the momentum, lift the belly, step, and land. Now, the hand that would normally go to the sky, that hand, that elbow is going to try and touch the floor. Ah! And then open it up. Try it again. Touch the floor, maybe. Open it up, or touch your block, whichever you're using. One more. Touch the floor. And open it up. Land, lift the hips, step back, squatty dog. Other side. Land. Elbow touches block or floor. Hand to sky. Elbow touches. Hand to sky. One more. Ready? Hands on the mat or on your blocks. Lift hips and belly. Step back. Squatty dog. Now I want you to do them singly. So squat, step, elbow, hand. Land. Squat, step, elbow, hand. Land. Step, squat, elbow, hand. Land. Lift your hips to step back. Elbow, hand. Lift your hips. I'm scooping on my right side. Elbow, hand. One more time. Lift hips to step back. Elbow, hand. Lift hips. Now find your squatty dog and stay still. Squatty dog, squatty dog, squatty dog. Knees to the mat. Extended child's. Breathe. Inhale, come forward. Pubic bone to the mat. Lower yourself down. From here, hands next to your ribs or by your shoulders. Remember, we're not going to push into the hands. And we touch the forehead. Inhale this time. See if you can lift 2 feet up off the floor as you lift your head and shoulders. Exhale down. And that's a maybe. Inhale. And exhale. You might have your breath a little faster. Let's do 2 more. Nice and slow. I don't care how high you go. It doesn't matter. We're trying to stabilize the body. This time, stay lifted. Reach your heart forward by dragging your hands backward. And then reach your ball of the foot backward. We're trying to elongate. One more breath. Exhale, hands under forehead. Pause. Finding that stillness. And as your breath relaxes, finding the pause in between the breaths. The pause in your body movement, where there's awareness. And then from here, let's turn over onto our backs. And let's take a moment in constructive rest. That was a lot. And I noticed in my body, as I got tired, I couldn't really pick up my hips and move my foot properly because I was getting tired. Knees together, feet apart. Constructive rest. If it feels good to you, take the heel of your hands to the crease of your hips and push. What that does is it opens up the space around the psoas and the lower back. See if you can soften. All righty. Now this next movement is again for resetting, but it's also a really good low back, glute, hamstring work. You can use your blocks to make your feet come up higher on the floor. And that's if you want a little bit more height. We're gonna work with lifting the hips up and down with the weights in your hands. And if you're a little bit stronger and you feel like you want to, it's the heavy weights. We're gonna work with the triceps here. If you feel like, no, not today, pick up your light weights. If you're not using weights at all, put your hands together. So feet on the blocks or not, that's your choice. And then keep your weights together, push your hands straight up to the ceiling. Make sure your shoulders are down, your neck is open. So just play with the hand position first. Bend the elbow and get the weights right above your head. And then push straight up. So there should be minimal movement in your upper arms. Okay, you got this movement. The next time you push up, I want you to press into your feet and lift your hips. And then lower down, lower the weights. Push. And down. So the triceps are considered part of the back of the body, just like your hamstrings and your glutes and your lower back are part of the back of the body. So we're working with this now. Push. And again, it's a nice stabilizing movement because you're working symmetrically right and left side. If you got the feet up on the blocks, it just allows for a little bit higher lift, a little bit more muscle integration. You don't have to do it if it feels a little sketchy. Remember how we worked the biceps a bunch of times? The way you know if you're working with a weight correctly is if you can do over about 15 reps, it's too late. And when you work up to 15 reps, you can actually build resiliency in the connective tissue before you move up. But if you could only do 5 reps and then you try to move up, you might get an injury, right? All right, 2 more. I don't know how many we've done, maybe 20. And up. Good. Release. Now, if you have the range of motion, let your weights separate so that your knuckles are toward the floor, but you're still holding your weights. And move your arms, hands away from your head a little. If you've got blocks, move them away. Put your feet on the floor. And we're just going to rock hips side to side with your arms in this above position. I don't care how far you go. It doesn't matter if you're using the weights. If it bothers your shoulders, please don't. But it can help you to keep your shoulders flat on the floor in an overhead position, which is ideal. Alrighty, slide your hands out from behind your weights if you're using them. Crisscross your right ankle over your left knee, bring your legs towards you. So static stretch for your right hip. Shoulders are relaxed to the floor. Right foot is active. We're just playing here, finding that nice ease, building resilience in the right hip. And then before we put the foot down, take your right hand and grab your right big toe. And then put your left foot down, take the right leg out to the side. Padangustasana 2. We did a lot of wide-legged things today, so this might feel really good. And your left hip may come off the floor just a little bit. I'm not going to worry about that so much. I just don't want you to flap over. And then release the foot and bring it back to the floor. Other ankle across the knee. Lifting up, finding that hold. Breathing. You notice one side's tighter than the other. That's our body habits, our body patterns, the way we're put together. I was just listening to a person that's a specialist in the field of fascia movement patterns, and he talks about hydrating the fascia. And I was interested because I'm thinking a lot about hydration right now. And you would think it would be drinking water, and yes, it is that. But the way you really hydrate a tissue, especially the fascia, is with movement. All right, so take a hold of your left hand, your toe with your left hand, put your right foot down, and then take the leg out to the side. And again, I've got a wall here, so I'm a little bit more comfortable. I'm not worried about flipping over. But I do want to open up that inner part of the leg. We've worked a lot there today. And so anything you do, walking even can help, but walking is very linear and our fascia is very rotational. So it's really nice to add all these different kinds of rotational patterns in any kind of conscious movement you're doing. Release and come to center. Bring your knees up to your chest, give them a little hug. And then if you like, pick your head up and bring your head and your knees together, just curling into that little cat-like position. And then letting your head release, move your knees away from you, lift your feet up. So you're in upside down table. Upside down table. So knees over hips, feet can touch or not, hands to the sky, drop the shoulders. So just resetting the system here, take right leg long. See where you go. Take left arm back. See where you go. Hold and breathe. Find your pelvic floor. Find your lower core. Come back to center. Left leg long. Right arm back. Breathe. So remember, you want to be able to take those full deep breaths, especially if you're doing something static like this. And then come back to center. Now release your feet to the floor, lift your hips, put them back down, and bring your knees to your chest lightly. Do that again, feet down, lift hips, lower, knees gently in. Good, release. All right, let's find our way into Shavasana from here. Make sure you're warm, make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you feel luscious. We're gonna move into a little breathing exercise while you're down. So once you get settled, you can put your hands on your body or you can let them rest to the side. And this is just a way for us to fall into Shavasana and to reset our nervous system. So as you inhale, count to yourself 4 counts. And as you exhale, count to yourself 4 counts. And what I'd like you to do is have a comfortable inhale and exhale. Try not to make it hard, but be very conscious and aware to those 4 counts being the same inhale and exhale. And then from here, once you've established that breath, I want you to have a pause in between the breaths. So inhale 4 counts, pause. Exhale 4 counts, pause. And the pause can just be a blip. It doesn't have to be long. Your body will tell you. Your nervous system and the way your body's regulating, it'll either take that long pause in the middle or it won't. But that's where I want you to have your attention, is during the pause. The natural pause that your body takes, not something you're forcing. And we go back to that idea of pausing and stillness. What do you notice? What's calling your attention? The yogis say that that pause in between breaths is our closest connection to God, the universe, whatever language you like to use, as we can get. It's similar to meditation, but you're awake and alert and noticing. And after your next inhale and exhale, let that all go and rest in Shavasana.
Take a deeper breath. And allowing yourself to come back to your body and the space around you, gently start to move and stretch. As you feel ready, you can bend your knees. Gently roll to a side, pausing there for a moment. Slowly making your way up to sitting. Take your time. Once you're seated, hands to the heart. Just take a moment for that space and that stillness and that deep conscious awareness. In gratitude for our time together on the mat, our deep body wisdom and guiding light. May our light always shine brightly, and may we always see the light in each other. Namaste.